So we're starting today talking with RWI Synthetics, or RWI, and Katelyn Petersen's here with us. So, Katelyn, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. This is great.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You're this leading tech company. You've won awards all over the world. You're not here really talking tech as much as hydrogen. So how are you blending actually hydrogen and tech together?
Well, we've been doing a lot of exciting work in Canada and in the Edmonton region, as well as in the United States and elsewhere, around hydrogen and around synthetic modeling as can be applied to growing hydrogen economies.
Okay. Outstanding. So we're actually starting this interview inside of one of the pieces of our pavilion here. And we've got this really amazing video that actually RWI Synthetics built with us. While it's a really awesome video, you're actually not really a video company. Again, you're more about synthetic data. So can you talk about the data sets that are behind this really cool piece of video?
Yes, absolutely. So we've been looking a lot at the growing hydrogen economy in the Edmonton region, and looking specifically at factors like workforce, and not only what workforce can look like now, but for example into the future.
Yeah.
So a lot of demographics. With every synthetic region that we generate a synthetic population that is never identified but is accurate to that region. So we use a lot of demographic and psychographic data, and then we look at how that kind of fits into the connected system of systems that creates a hydrogen economy.
Okay, so let's pretend I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
And make it really simple. So synthetic models, synthetic people, synthetic things, these are all just basically digital representations of what exists, and then you project those out into the future, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So we can create environments that are representative of an existing environment, complete with business, infrastructure, policies, technologies, and then, as I said, we can layer in that population, which is never identified but is representative, with psychographic and demographic characteristics, and then we can look at how those things interact with one another, sort of that connected systems of systems approach. And we can play those scenarios forward into the future.
Yeah. Okay, so when you talk about scenarios, we are often using the language of, it's like little knobs or dials that you say.
Yes, absolutely.
More education, more power from net zero, more hydrogen production, more hydrogen vehicles on the road as kind of knobs in the computer. They're not knobs, but as ways to then say, if we change this, this happens. If we add this, that happens. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. They're basically variables that can be manipulated. So when we've got an environment, and of course, hydrogen it's not a simple topic.
Yeah.
And there's many different stakeholders. They have many different interests. There's decisions around policy and investment and technology adoption, as well as human factors around workforce and consumption. We can look at it from a grid standpoint.
Yeah.
So how would that, how does the hydrogen economy impact grid, electricity, water? Kind of a whole variety of factors. And so when we're sort of sandboxing different scenarios, we can manipulate different variables and play out these scenarios to see how different decisions might look into the future, and therefore to inform those decisions.
So is it mainly from like a planning perspective? So if you're a planning office, you can say, okay, we want to predict what arterial roads need to look like, or again, the power grid, or how we're moving hydrogen through pipelines? Or is it something that can be used by companies to say, what's the risk tolerance around some of these approaches?
Yes, absolutely, and both.
Okay, good. So can you maybe just explain that a bit?
Yes. So from a planning side, we can look at that sort of system of systems and say, say we wanted to turn the investment dial. We can see how that might play out in the ecosystem. If we wanted to turn a policy dial or a technology adoption dial, we can do that as well.
Wow.
So, for example, we're part of a bid right now for a tri-state hydrogen hub in the States, and they would be interested in like a larger ecosystem kind of approach to things. But we could also look from a sort of the interest of a particular company around the factors that are most salient for them.
Okay, that's really interesting. So it's a really good tool to figure out what are the most impactful things we can do. What has positive benefits and not negative consequences that we haven't foreseen.
Yes, absolutely. The unforeseen consequences are a major factor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how far into the project are you in Edmonton?
In Edmonton, well, we have some ongoing work in Edmonton, and so we've done a fair bit of work around workforce and what the energy workforce and diversified energy workforce will look like going into the future. We've also done a fair bit of work around trucking and transport. So we've looked at different combinations of vehicles zipping around on their routes in Alberta and what that might look like. And we are excited to explore all manner of other different factors in hydrogen.
Well, and I imagine too, it's not something that you say, okay, we built it, it's done, because
oh no, it's ever
our environment
evolving.
Changes.
Yeah.
And like we had an announcement here yesterday with Lindy. With a massive hydrogen project that they're going to be working on, a global scale project. Not the first; it's one of several. And when that one moves to FID, is that something that would then get added into this to see how the economics change?
Yes, we can absolutely do that, and that's kind of the beauty of a synthetic environment, is it can be updated and sort of renewed, and we can constantly be adding things and making the environment better. And that's also a good thing about synthetic data, is the data that's generated by the environment kind of produces more information, and then we can feed back more information, and the environment continues to become better and better the more we add to it.
Wow. Okay. Again, it's so interesting, and I probably could ask you about 1,000 questions. We only have 10 minutes. We probably could book like an hour. Is the model far enough along that you can already see interesting trends or opportunities within it?
That's a very good question. I think I would certainly say yes, and it depends on what question you would like to ask. And that's something that we can tailor to quite a significant degree of granularity, and that we can go right down to the individual person. We can look at an individual truck. We can look at a particular route. So I would say absolutely on all opportunity fronts. It just depends on what the specific question is.
Okay. So again, with a lot of things that are AI based, the ability to ask good questions typically are the most important once you've got that data set in place.
Yes, I think that holds true here as well.
Okay, really interesting. So you've done many projects here in Edmonton and across this region. You're doing several, in Canada. I think you've done a project in Kuala Lumpur, Los Angeles. You've done some work in Europe. Are there things that you're learning from some of these synthetic models you're building in other places that you think, wow, this is a really insightful piece that you're now adding back into kind of that rollout of your tech?
Yes, absolutely. So our models, while our environments are very regionally specific, geospatially accurate, the models that we use can be moved around. So if we have a model for transit ridership in Kuala Lumpur, well, we can take that and port it into the synthetic Edmonton region. And of course, if there's factors that don't hold true for both environments, we'd have to change those. But every project we do has some element that can then be applied to other projects, and it's kind of a rapidly compounding effect.
Okay, we're down to the last minute, so I'm going to ask a couple really quick ones.
Absolutely.
You're in the scale-up stage. Are you looking for investors? You're looking for more clients? What's the bit of both?
We would be happy to talk about both.
Okay, awesome. And then the last one, next month we're also hosting Upper Bound. So Upper Bound is Canada's biggest AI conference. We've got, I think, 5,000 people.
Oh, wonderful.
Mostly students coming from around the world about AI. Are you part of that one too?
I think we are.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so great. Again, really love the work that RWI Synthetics, or RWI, is doing. We've got some really amazing and impressive modeling that we're building that's helping us figure out how to move faster, how to move smarter, and how to do it more as a collective. So again, it's some great work and real world-leading leadership out of RWI.